Money, we were bringing you from West Bengal's north, Dinajpur. Let's go across to Saurav Gupta, who's joined us with some breaking news. Saurav, you're reporting that fresh violence has broken out in this area after the violence that we'd already seen over the alleged rape and murder of a young teenage girl, and an issue that's become hugely politicized between the BJP and the TMC. But what can you tell us? What is the latest?
Well, at this point, the situation has been brought under control. There was fresh violence today in Kaliyaganj in North Dinajpur district, and this was the result of the anger over the alleged rape and murder of a teenager in the area. Now, the police had to fire tear gas shells and use force to control the situation again today. At this point, the situation has been brought under control, and there was some vandalism today as well. Now, the BJP has, of course, targeted the state government, saying the body was retrieved in an undignified manner, and that the police were allegedly trying to dilute evidence. The police sources have countered that, saying that the body had to be recovered in an extremely volatile situation. There was an angry crowd, and they had to do it in the quickest possible time to ensure that the post-mortem happened on time, and there was no evidence that was removed or or there was no contamination of evidence in plain and simple terms, and which is why the police had to act in a situation of violence, and and that is why the police had to retrieve the body by force. Now, this morning again there was a political visit. BJP chief, state BJP chief Sukanta Majumdar, who's also the MP from Balurghat, visited the area and also spoke to the family members of the teenager who was allegedly raped and murdered. The police are conducting the investigation from several angles, and sources say that perhaps one of the angles they're looking at is if the persons involved behind the crime were known to the victim or not. That is one of the angles also that they're looking at. But obviously at this point the investigation is on, and the BJP is of course targeting the Mamata Banerjee government over law and order because of what we've seen yesterday and today as well. Also what we've been given to understand is that the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights team is also likely to visit the area in the context of what has happened.
And Saurav, you just said that Mr. Majumdar is on the ground. He's a BJP member. Earlier in the day, of course, as is the case in Bengal, when most issues get horribly politicized, the BJP had been alleging that they were not being allowed to visit the family members of this young woman who has been murdered. But what is the situation when it comes to the political face-off between both these parties and the BJP's allegations that they weren't being allowed to visit?
Well, the state BJP chief Sukanta Majumdar, who is also the Balurghat MP, has visited, though he claims that he wasn't, there were no police officers whom he could meet. He tried meeting the senior police officers in the district, but he was unsuccessful in doing that. That's the BJP. But every issue in West Bengal, unfortunately, does get politicized. Even if it's a law and order incident or a incident of crime, it invariably turns into a political face-off between the BJP and the Trinamool Congress. And in such situations, the investigating teams are, under, extreme scrutiny. In a normal situation, an investigation can be conducted much easily. But yesterday's incident where the body had to be retrieved in a situation where there was violence is something that makes the job even more difficult for anyone who's investigative. And as usual, in almost all cases nowadays that we see, the BJP ends up demanding a probe by a central agency. They've done that in this case as well. And of course, the state government of the Trinamool Congress will say that there shouldn't be, there's no need for a CBI inquiry, central agencies are politicized, and in the state police are perfectly capable of conducting an investigation into an incident like this. But it is an incident of crime, a horrible crime. The allegation is that a young woman, a teenager, was allegedly raped and murdered, and there has been considerable anger in the area after the incident. But we've seen the BJP also, take cognizance of the incident and also use it to attack the Trinamool Congress as well over law and order, given that the state government is, of course, run by the Trinamool Congress.